So I am here and thinking about how this schizophrenia thing has been affecting me over the years while I struggled with it, or what was going on in relation to, because I always feel like I'm so distant from my past, right? I feel so distant from things that I shouldn't feel so distant from, you know, which affects my memory, right? And at first, I thought that was just the medications that I've been on over the years, but I've been just wondering about that, if that's all that there is. And I'm thinking it's probably more to it, and it's more because uh, how schizophrenia works, right? And I think there's like a, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but like a, maybe I wouldn't say that, but there's a time component to it. What I mean is that it speeds me up so that I'm I'm not, like, say if I'm talking to somebody, I'm not in the same time as they are, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to explain. And it separates me from somebody else in time, and it also separates me from myself in time, which means like my past. Right? So what that means is, well, why is it that somebody who can have schizophrenia, and you, like, for example, myself, I struggle for, like, you know lost for, like, let's say 6 years, and within that time I've created habits that I no longer remember what it was like to live without. Like, for example, the anxiety, the paranoia, the thought, like the racing thoughts, repetitive, intrusive thoughts. And I couldn't remember what it was like to not have a racing mind, to not have voices chattering, to not have anxiety, distress. I didn't know how to be. How do I be normal? I didn't know how to have a conversation with somebody and just be. I was so used to being anxious, and yet I spent more time being able to have a conversation than what I spent with schizophrenia and struggling in that regard. Why is that? Right? And this is why you hear a lot of people will say, like, they don't think they can ever go back to being who they were. They don't believe they can, because they've become so accustomed to this mind, this way of being, way of living, and they don't remember what it was like to be without it. Right? And that's how I felt. And I remember this when I was in psychosis some of the times. Like, I was like, I didn't bring this into awareness, but I know it. I was like locked in this like tunnel vision. And I could see in my peripherals, again, I didn't bring this into awareness, but I saw it. There was like this energy, like in the air, just vibrating, right? And it's onto this side, off to that side. And I was locked in, and I was moving, so, like, to somebody looking at me, I would be erratic. But while I was in it, I was normal. I wasn't moving any way that was weird. But to somebody, I would just be here, there, up there, because my mind was flowing with information. And I'm responding to the information, but it's coming at such a rapid pace, and yet I was keeping up with it. So that affects like I was out of sync in time with everybody else, which made me look like I'm just moving kind of erratic. right? But in that moment, those moments, there's so much information that's coming at me that like it could be, it's like months or years of information in that short amount of time, right? And what that does is it builds up this habits. It gets entrenched, right? So I'm in like a different dimension of time, and I'm creating habitual ways of thinking and acting and feeling. And the more time I spend in this way, the more separated I am from everybody else in this time and from myself, my history. And so when I look back, my life before schizophrenia is going to be so far back. It's almost like I've traveled years in time. And I no longer remember what it's like to be without schizophrenia. I no longer remember what it's like to be able to think, to be able to just be normal, have a conversation. Because I've just created this whole entrenched habit just by being locked into this dimension of time, this rapid space or pace of thoughts. And then there's movement as well. There's so much going on. There's so much information. And then taking all that information in and responding to it, it separates me, and it really entrenches the delusions and the habits, reinforces everything, so that now I become stuck, right? It's trying to break these habits becomes like a drug addict trying to break the addiction. It's not an easy thing. It's very difficult, right? It's very difficult, right? It's painful almost, right? You're compelled to move according to the dictations of the habit. You're compelled because that's what you've been for like the last freaking how long? Your whole life, it seems. And you don't remember what it's like to not be an addict, to not be filled with anxiety, to not be filled with fear, to not be filled with a racing mind, paranoid thoughts. You don't remember, right? And when you try to, it's like you just can't. You just shake. You know, it's like trying to break an addiction. Your whole system just starts to rebel against you, and you yield to that, to the thoughts, to the whatever it is, because like it's like that drug. You need it to feel like this is you. You know, it's because it's just been stuck in that freaking circle of the way it just bombards you with information. It's very interesting. You know, I gotta look into this some more because I had to think about it. It's very interesting though. But I think that somewhat answers why I feel so like distant from myself sometimes, from my life before. You know, like it's hard to and I feel just so far from it, farther than it should be. You know. So, anyways, man, I just thought I'd throw it out there. So, yeah, some other stuff. There's actually another video I want to make, but I'll leave that for another time. Anyway, next time.